Good afternoon. You're actually the first to be exposed to facts about the type of fraud which until now is highly undetectable, is already in many of the organizations. And once you get into the governance screening, everything I've seen in the conference until now, it's already inside. And there is no way to detect it, or was no way to detect it. And the magnitude of it is a bit alarming. So just to put this in perspective, it's about fraud, identity fraud. You know about identity fraud. You don't know about this one. So let's look at this way. The fraud, identity fraud, which is until now detectable, or at least everyone is working on, is basically, in those terms, amateur fraud. These are the 1 or 2 or 3 cases where someone is trying to open an account he shouldn't be opening, and there is 1 or 2 levels of sophistication into it. It may be caught because of some issues with the data on it, or with the images the guy is sending, of the ID, of the face, or whatever it will be. So this is the common one, and this is the one counted by statistics. But in the underworld, there is fraud which is not visible. And it's organized. And by organized, I mean it's not 1 or 2 cases, it's not 3. You'll see what volume, how intensive it can get. The problem with it is that since professionals are doing it, it's not that easy to detect. They're actually using AI, Gen AI, deepfake, whatever you want, probably better than many of those trying to catch it. And that's what I want to be focusing on in this call. So, just to put it visually in perspective, this is standard fraud, okay? Obviously, I blurred everything which is personal data, but just to give an idea, it will be very easy for you to see the picture here doesn't belong, it's too big, it's basically placed on it. This one, by the way, sometimes I do this as a riddle. Not everyone are getting on top of it. And imagine you had to be, or you were in a back office, looking at the 250th ID document, and you still have to notice all those tiny things. But you do see that the number out there is not standard. It is also too sharp for the image. This is easy. I mean, any vendor would detect it. That's what you count today. Is this fraudulent? Okay, let me help. If you would check this, and I would unblur it, okay, it would be the actual original picture, you would have no reason to stop it. Everything is there, including holograms, including the pictures, including the signs on the pictures. The faces are, each one of them is different. The personal data is different. There's no way to stop them. But now that I'm putting them all on the same slide, you'll probably see that here you can see this reflection. The exact same reflection is on all of them. So the only chance to stop this is someone remembering all the IDs that he just saw, in order to remember that probably there was something wrong about the reflection on a couple of them. One appeared this morning, the other one in the afternoon, etc. This is much higher level fakes that usually are not stopped. But there is a way to do that, and our company actually does. And as you can see here, also examples of actually caught documents. And it's easy to see when put against the other, the light reflection here that is again and again and again the same one. It's actually the same document, doesn't even change. This is, by the way, old school good fakes. Today, with Gen AI, we are already noticing that they know what we are looking for, which means they start turning them around, changing the background, changing angles, making them darker, etc., etc. Someone knows what he's doing. Okay? This is an example. I just put a couple of them, one on top of the other, of an attack that included, as you can see, 670 variants of the same document, each one of them with different data, different faces, different numbers, different everything, that was detected in one day. So it's not the odd guy at home wanting to open the account or do something he's not supposed to. It looks like serial fraud, right? Much more organized. And when you look at them as a company that detects those fakes, this is what a normal company would see in terms of what they just got into their system. What was captured by normally your smartphone, can be otherwise, can be uploaded, whatever. Many of them, and you have to look at each one of them separately, and you have to understand what's going on with them. When you look at these serial organized fraud attacks, they do have repetitions in them, but those repetitions can be sophisticated. The only way to see it's the same thing is to put them all in the one place. Now, fraudsters became sophisticated. Since they know someone is now able to detect them, they cannot repeat the same thing too often, too much, obviously not to the same organization. So here starts a kind of cat and mouse game where that face can be appearing on various different documents from different countries, different types, with different details on them, but the number may repeat elsewhere, etc. It begins to be an intricate game of elements in an ID document in this case, or in a face, which repeats oddly on another place with another connection, with another set of elements connected to it. For that, you need a tool. Until now, I don't know if you know, but we are in a very AI-driven environment. That's our market, the identity verification. When you actually check how it works, how well it works, it's a bit problematic. Many of the companies actually use human help in order to try to compensate for what technology cannot. Why? Because any picture of the same document with the same person would not necessarily be identical. You move, the conditions are different, the focus is different, etc. So there actually now exists for a good couple of years a tool. This is one of the interfaces. Once again, I blurred what needs to be blurred. That actually monitors on a global level those attacks which are undetectable at the case level, at the images you just got, but represent organized, sophisticated, AI-enhanced attacks. Right now, if you look at it on our computers, you will see something in the vicinity of between 750,000 cases caught in a year and up. These are cases that cannot individually be detected, which means anyone here in this business that is or is using an identity verification solution with automation and AI, you're not seeing that. And these are huge numbers. So let's see a little bit. I'll spread it into two parts. One of them is that we are holding a periodical review of what exactly is happening. Trends, behaviors, where it's come from, whom does it attack, etc. And then I'm going to expose you probably to the biggest ever organized attacks of forged IDs that until now were exposed. So let's start with the first one. Now, I know the numbers are small. It is not meant to be read, each and every bar and number. But look at it this way. You can obviously see different regions in the world, okay? Now, the blue ones are last quarter of last year. The yellow one is first quarter of this year. You can obviously see that EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, are high in terms of numbers, okay? And you can see from the lines that actually in the last quarter, between the last quarter of last year and this quarter of this year, the share of those attacks inside the entire volume coming from that region has actually risen. We'll see in a minute why or where. Okay? North America, which is obviously in terms of volumes primarily here, didn't change much, but also you see that jump in LATAM. Now, here we broke it down, not to a regional level, but a little bit more granularly. And you cannot help seeing that the Middle East, someone doesn't like the Middle East, and it's actually growing. Can you try to think why is it so high and so growing? You read the news, right? Yeah. It's not about Trump, it's other news. So something is happening, and it reflects on the level of attacks being done with falsified or organized or professionally falsified IDs and faces. Okay, this is more difficult, so brace yourself. Good. Same regions. First one is last quarter of last year, first quarter of this year. I just outlined out of these colors, each color representing a different type of attack. You may change, face, number, personal data, the picture itself, the face on it, etc., etc. It's part of what we are looking at. It's not all. But just look at the trends. What happened in North America is kind of interesting because you can see there is a jump in one type of forgery. Okay? When it happens, it means that something is repeating itself quite a lot. But if it's repeating itself quite a lot, it means that someone will see it, right? I mean, how many times can you see the same face on different documents, etc.? This is exactly the DNA of one of the strategies organized crime is using in order to do those attacks. Because this means you cannot apply too many times to the same organization because they will notice. So this is the type of attacks that's spreading thin across as many organizations, as many markets or verticals as possible in order to get unnoticed. While in LATAM, we saw something else. The whatever, color has actually shrunk, and it's very, very balanced. It means that they can attack less organizations, or less companies, or less banks, or less whatever it will be, with different variations of the same thing without repeating itself too much. Now, it is consistent that whatever is happening in the market, payments gets bashed. And I remind you, we are talking about professional organized crime level fraud. Why do they dislike or like payment so much? Usually the answer is simple. There are exactly two reasons we've seen, or two motivations we've seen to attack anyone or anything. One, there's a lot of money in it. And we'll see what it means when you're talking about crypto. Because crypto has those jumps that makes it popular. And the second one, why would you attack a certain industry?
Politics.
Perhaps. I think it's kind of simpler. It's the easiest. It's the less protected. If it's easy, easy money is you get less chance of being caught. There are quite a lot of them. They are not that well protected. So easy money is the best motivator we've seen in organized crime. But you're more right than you think, because part of it is not necessarily organized crime. There are also state-sponsored types of activities of this sort. And of course, crypto comes next, and these always sway and change if I put them one on top of the other by whatever is happening on the market. And two things can happen on the market. One, something gets a hype, and the other one, regulations. Usually, when you see something new in regulations, they leave it be until they see or understand or find a way to bypass that one. So looking at this is the map of verticals: payments, crypto, banking, etc., etc. The list is longer, but these are some of these we wanted to look at. This is the volume. You remember payments is very high, but those red circles represent the growth versus the last quarter. So while payments is obviously big, it actually grew relatively low or relatively less. While crypto actually is smaller, basically, but has very high growth. Why did crypto jump that much in that particular period of time? Any guess? Bitcoin?
Gone back up into the crypto.
And it went up because of, do you remember the famous halving? When everyone woke up and there's some opportunity out there. Because the crypto companies, by the way, we do serve quite a lot of them, actually advertise that every time there is halving in crypto, it is followed by a jump in the value of it. So at halving, buy it, you're supposed to get rich. This is also interesting. This is what is being faked. And I chose on purpose only here in the US because it will be, I assume, relevant to many of you. And obviously the thing you see is, in terms of volume, driving license is the common ID here. But the picture is very nice about the volume or the share of it, which is the lines out there, and it jumps at passport cards. Exactly 2 months after we found that out, this was published here, that FinCEN gave a notice about passport cards actually being more attacked than anything else. I don't know exactly why, okay? But it is nice to know that you're actually detecting the phenomena before the regulating bodies do. So it's kind of very interesting when it's actually monitoring, so it's ongoing, so it's daily, then you can actually see behavior and then try to understand where that behavior is coming from. Okay, I think this is the last one with lots of bars. Because this is once again in the US, and as you can see, the biggest change is here in crypto and trading, what is happening, this time in fraud, and as you can see, this is a very broad attack because the same type of element which is repeated, okay, there are too many of it. And as I said, you cannot attack too many times with the same thing, the same organization, so by definition, someone did a blanket attack here. But actually, I wanted to amaze you with the really, really, really big attacks, the mega attacks that just shows you, by the way, how much identity fraud is under the radar, going undetected. So, just to give you an idea, okay? You recognize this star. And you do recognize there is a point here, okay? This is Earth versus the sun. Now, I actually went and measured it. I didn't go around the sun, but I actually went and found online that the sun is 109 times bigger than Earth. The mega fraud that we caught, or the biggest one, was 2,000 times bigger than the average organized fraud. If I would use that as the same scale, the same measure, it will mean that Earth is actually 5% of its current size. These are gigantic mass attacks that miraculously actually work because they usually go undetected. I mean, we did detect it, okay, otherwise you wouldn't know. But normally, if you don't use that type of technology, you don't know. So we took the first 10 or the 10 biggest ones, okay? And try to look at them. Even visually, you can see various types here. The numbers, you can see the biggest one was 20,000 cases spread over a year. Who can sit and match different faces and details and numbers and document types? It's 20,000 times. It makes you think, are these humans doing it, or is it aided by some kind of technology? I assume you know the answer. Increasingly, technology is in there, and we simply see it because you can see when you actually expose it, the fraud looks like a kind of systematic unsystematicness. Everything changes, but there is a system into that change because some algorithm is pulling all of that. So actually inside, I think you could see already there, you have either the gigantic burst, usually spreading across markets, across countries. It's a global view here. Or those who do it under the radar, very small bursts here and there, in order to get unnoticed. Here you see much less or quite fewer vertical attacks by those professionals. And let's assume this is probably mafia, organized crime, or state-sponsored attacks. Again, payments, the easy target, okay? Crypto is there, but many of the others are not there anymore. And if you look at what's happening, for instance, in terms of market development, you can see the volumes here. I already marked it for you. In EMEA, for instance, you can see a sharp drop in attacks. You can put it against MiCA, that's regulations about the identity verification. APAC jumped exactly when the whole crypto thing, halving, etc., started to grow up. In North America, here, someone loves crypto, and as all the hype began, why not go in? And these are not clients, these are fraudsters. So to sum up, this is what those farms used to look like in terms of you actually had to sit someone in front of a computer, give them all the data, either from darknet or from people's profiles. This is an entire operation there. Today, because of the way it looks, I've never been there, okay? But because of the way it looks, you probably have machines with algorithms doing it for you. So basically, fraud adopts AI very quickly and very sophisticatedly to the level which is right now hardly countered by those detecting it. So the methodology is very simple. What we've done, and we recommend obviously to do, is this. Right now, when you try to detect something fraudulent in identity, you are doing a case level. Someone sent you the picture of an ID, picture of a face, or a video of it, doesn't matter. That's what you have to look like. So if anything is wrong, it should be visible, or it should be somewhere in the EXIF or other data around the file. If you can't see it, there's no fraud. But since the sophistication of fraud has come to the level and the availability of tools is such, comes the second layer, which is actually what you've seen here. That's a product we actually developed. It actually does not attempt to see fraud in those images. It looks for the behavior that fraudsters or organized crime is doing. So anyone who actually wants to be the safest possible in this type of market under these numbers probably should think about 2 levels of defense and probably look very carefully or test very carefully what exactly they are putting in. Believe you me, not everything that is called automated is. Okay, so welcome to the world of mass, organized, sophisticated, AI-enhanced identity fraud that everyone is facing right now. How am I time-wise? Any questions?
On the graph where you showed the peaks versus the very low volumes throughout the years, did you notice a difference between the kind of threat actors choosing one or the other? Like, are both of them organized crime, or is there a difference?
Okay, so there is a difference. I didn't get in. I had the time frame. First of all, interestingly, the different behaviors may come from different regions in the world. Asia attacks differently than North America, differently than Africa. And it is indicative. Obviously, I don't work for any organized crime organization, so I don't know what they actually do. But when you translate it, you see they have modes of operation, and they tend to repeat them. They just do it with better and better and better tools. So I don't have a direct answer exactly to your question, but it is the behavior that suggests there's something too systematic, too expensive, by the way, to do otherwise, and you need those resources. As I'm always saying, the best early adopters of AI are fraudsters.
How do you train on new document types?
I thought you would ask a more difficult question. No, because you're asking a kind of challenging question, okay? Because obviously, how can we train AI on documents which are by definition PII? We are not supposed to do that, right? And we need to abide by regulations. So at the good old times, you had to have some clients that are willing, for the purpose of training and improving their performance, give you a limited amount of samples. You would learn them, delete them, goes back, and you don't need them anymore. So there's no PII there. Now, we want to be as sophisticated as the fraudsters. So if I can generate a face, by the way, all my faces in all my social media are generated. I decided to be who I want to be, not who I am. So can we not generate all the samples we need of faces, of documents, of the data on them? We can do millions. It's generated. It doesn't really belong to anything. I see a picture of a hammer. So if you have more questions.